After I read A Court of Thorns Roses, I finally understood. This was the heroine that I didn't know I needed. This is a story of love, not romance, love. Learning to love yourself, learning to let someone else love you, and learning to love someone that you've been taught to hate your entire life. This is a story that deals with life and death, free will, fighting for what's right, and learning to trust yourself in the darkest of times. This is Feyre's hero journey. From the mortal lands to Prythian to Under the Mountain to being reborn. Let me take you on that journey. Something I love about the hero's journey is that multiple things can happen in the outline of the hero's journey, leading up to that specific moment, making it that much more earned. And they occasionally happen out of order because this formula is used to analyze a story through a literary lens. I do think it can also help while you're writing a story, but it's not obsolete. We all have different tools that guide us on our journey of writing a story, of helping us to stay on track. That just goes to show that we all have different perspectives and can learn so much when we're using this tool to analyze literature that we love, along with identifying interesting story components that you might have not noticed the first time you read it, and I think unfortunately happens with this series a lot. Don't believe that every story is a hero's journey, but many of our favorite stories that we love are. Thus, when I do this writing exercise, I will be focusing on stories that I believe do have a hero's journey. In the hero's journey, we first start with the ordinary world, and in A Court of Thorns Roses, for Feyre, that is the mortal land. And more specifically, that is her being a hunter for her family to provide food for them as they struggle through another cold winter. She's also not very close to her family, and we also know that Fae are considered to be dangerous and that they torture humans, and you want to stay as far away from them as possible. This is the only life she's ever known, until she sees a wolf in the woods. And this is her call to adventure. It is odd to see a wolf. She thinks it might be a fae, and she's currently hunting a deer right now, which could feed her family for quite a while. She doesn't want to lose the deer. She doesn't want the wolf to have it. And if it's a fae, for how much she has been taught and told to hate and fear them for killing and torturing humans, she could do it. She could taste it. She could get that kill to save the deer for herself, but to also maybe seek revenge on these creatures that she's been told to hate her entire life. So she takes the kill, which perfectly leads us into the refusal of the call. Tamlin, he's a high fae who is from the Spring Court, and he shows up in his beast form, terrifying the whole family. And he tells Feyre, you can either come with me and live in Prythian forever, or I can kill you. So an ultimatum is given to her. This is her consequence for killing a fae, he explains. She attempts to kill him, but he's too fast, too smart. He knows her every move, and she doesn't want to die. So she goes with him to Prythian. Now we go into meeting the mentor, which is our supporting character, Lucien. He essentially acts as a courtier to Tamlin. He's been banished from his court, and Tamlin has been struggling very much to open up to Feyre, be kind to her. Lucien essentially steps in, and he is more open to having conversations with her, maybe because he's the one that doesn't have to fall in love with her. It's easier for him to teach her the ways of Prythian and what it means to be fae and what the rules are of the land. He even tells her how to catch the cereal, which is another type of fae in this world, which segues us into crossing the threshold. So again, remember how I talked about in the intro, we can have a few things leading up to this moment. Lucien teaches Feyre how to catch the cereal, which is essentially a fae that we like to say in the joking ACOTAR land is they hold all the tea. They got all the gossip, all the information in the world. They're basically like a seer, a fortune teller of the fae, which still to this day, I do think Lucien did this on purpose so that way Tamlin would have to save Feyre. While she was out there trying to speak to the cereal, she gets attacked by the Naga, which are a very vicious, dangerous type of fae. And Tamlin comes in and rescues her. And Feyre experiences her first kill. She experiences Tamlin saving her life, and this creates a bond for them. He then offers to show her the massive art gallery that they have in the manor, and this makes her very excited and much more open to the offer because she loves art. He's taking an interest, and again, they've created this bond. They helped save each other out in the forest earlier. And then later in the night, a wounded fae shows up, crying, saying, she took my wings, she took my wings. His back is cut, he's bleeding out, he's about to die, and Feyre comes down and stays there with him and holds his hand while he dies. This shows her who these fae really are. They're not these dangerous creatures that she's been told to believe. And because again, she doesn't know the truth of the curse, she just knows it's some sort of blight and they've mentioned it might hurt the mortal lands. She feels this is her fight now. She sees what is happening and that they're in this together. So she wants to stay now. She wants to do whatever is possible to help them fight it. Thus, I feel this is more her finally crossing the threshold. She has accepted this new world that she has come into and accepted the creature she's always been taught to fear. She has a new truth now. Now that she's crossed the threshold, we are come into the territory of test allies and enemies. Her allies is the cereal, not to mention she's now becoming allies with Tamlin and Lucien, and she knows her true enemy now is her, who she's heard of, but she doesn't know because the curse blocks her from knowing the full truth of what the curse is. The her is Amarantha. Amarantha is the evil fae that has put the curse upon Prynthian. Besides Amarantha being an enemy, she also discovers Rhysand from the Night Court is also an enemy because he is known to work very closely with Amarantha. So these are her two enemies now. And one of the tests she has to compete is falling for Tamlin. She has to tell him she loves him, but she doesn't do it in time. And so Tamlin sends her back home for her own safety. Now we approach the inmost cave. After returning home, she realizes that she actually does love Tamlin and she would do anything to save him. Thus, she decides to return to Prynthian. She realizes now everything that she's been through and she has to return back on her mission, which leads her into the ordeal. She discovers that Tamlin has been taken captive with many other fae under the mountain, which is where Amarantha is. When she arrives, Amarantha takes her as a prisoner and sets her through 3 tests that she has to go through, along with a riddle that if she solves the riddle can basically beat out all the tests she also has to do. So now we've come to the reward, seizing the sword. While Feyre is going through all the trials, she decides to trust Rhysand. She has to make a deal with him, and therefore he will help her get through the trials in order to survive. Remember how I said this story is about love, about self-love, about learning to let others love you. Through these trials and being captive as a prisoner throughout all of this is where she goes through her emotional arc. She learns she is worthy of love, she learns that she is enough, and she loves herself just as she is. And she has completed all the tests. But now, on the road back, Amarantha has broken her promise, and she just wants to kill Feyre. Feyre is trying to fight back, but Amarantha is too strong for her. And through Feyre's emotional arc, that is how she realizes the answer to the riddle was love. And she says that on her last dying breath, which then breaks the curse. Tamlin is finally able to kill Amarantha and defeat her. And now, we're brought to resurrection, which is Feyre's literal resurrection. As Feyre is dying, we start to read how as her soul is passing, she sees a golden light that pulls her back. And this is from Rhys, asking all the High Lords to give a piece of their immortality to bring Feyre back to life for saving them all from the curse. So she is now alive again, which brings us turn of the elixir, a newfound form of truth. Feyre has returned home to the Spring Court with Tamlin, but she's no longer her anymore. She's fae, immortal, but left with the horror of the lives that had to die in order for her to save Tamlin. And yes, the fae of Prynthian, but she did it for him and for herself to survive as well. She has a human soul in an immortal body. She's lived a human life, something a fae can never experience. And we as the reader feel that transformation with Feyre. We understand how complicated that must be and how different she is from the rest of the fae, even though she is one of them now. She has this extra piece of wisdom or information that others don't understand. With the pain of the lives that died for her at her hand, losing herself to save another, and having experienced death, but also living on the edge of death as a starving human, she now lives in a body of immortality. And she has to sit with these feelings for eternity. How does one process life after that? Is there even a point? And that's what we'll discover next in her journey in A Court of Mist and Fury. If you would like to see that, please let me know down in the comments below. And if there's other characters that you love that you would like me to explore their hero's journey, please let me know also down in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video.